She refused to let her disability define her.
She wanted to master American Sign Language.
She enrolled in the Rhode Island School for the Deaf.
She was able to form friendships.
And she also found a new love.
They shared so much in common.
He was quite the gentleman.
She just falls head over heels for him.
They were the perfect match for each other.
But when she turns up missing, her family fears the worst.
It was out of character for her to not stay in close touch.
Please, you need to help me. Something was wrong.
Evidence leads detectives to another man in her life.
Their communications have been very flirtatious.
Maybe this is a relationship that nobody really knows about.
But the truth is even more vicious than anyone imagined.
It was a bloodbath.
Just the brutality of it, it was really unbelievable.
Bonnie had been stabbed over 38 times.
Those are the behaviors of a cold-blooded murderer.
March 1st, 2013. It's Friday morning in Harlem, New York, a trendy Manhattan neighborhood famous for its rich diversity.
Harlem is historically a black neighborhood, and it remains true today.
It has its own culture. Everything from the food to the people to the music playing out of cars. It's a completely different experience.
A lot of immigrants from Spanish-speaking countries like the Dominican Republic have come into Spanish Harlem on the east side.
You can feel a sense of history when you're there.
But today, the mother of one young immigrant feels only worry as she's frantic to find her daughter.
That morning, the NYPD got a call from a woman in the Dominican Republic named Valentina, who said she thinks her daughter Frances is missing.
My name is Valentina.
Frances was a 19-year-old girl who had recently immigrated from the Dominican Republic.
She said she was deaf and has been living in New York for the past few months.
What makes you think she's missing?
She was supposed to be back already.
Valentina tells police that the day before, her daughter had planned to travel home for a visit. But she never showed up.
When's the last time you heard from her?
Yesterday morning. She said she was gonna see us soon.
She tried calling and texting, but wasn't getting any responses from Frances.
Her mother was becoming concerned that she hadn't received any communications from her.
At first, police are hesitant to get involved.
Has she done this type of thing before?
No, never. Never.
The initial response from the NYPD, somewhat understandably, is not to be so concerned because she's an adult.
She could have changed her mind. She could have missed the flight.
But Frances's mother insists they look into it.
It was out of character for her daughter to not stay in close touch, especially with a flight coming so soon.
Mothers have instincts. They know their children.
Please, you need to help me.
Frances' mom knew there was something wrong.
She is convinced that something has happened to Frances.
Growing up in the Dominican Republic, Frances Pellerano always dreamed of seeing the world.
Frances was a girl with a sense of adventure.
She loved meeting new people and seeing new places.
But meeting new people wasn't always easy.
It was really hard for her to learn sign language and just didn't have many people to connect with. But Frances was very determined to not let her disability hold her back.
She wanted to expand and learn more about how to operate in this world.
She decided to come to the States to attend the Rhode Island School for the Deaf.
And when she arrived, it was everything she had dreamed of.
It was like a college campus. She developed community, she developed friends.
She began to thrive. She enjoyed playing on the school's basketball team and soccer team.
And she really honed her skills, her ability to American Sign.
She was able to really start finding herself.
But she was still searching for something more meaningful.
Like many young people, she wanted a boyfriend.
So she looked to the internet for love.
She joined a couple of social media groups for deaf people, and she quickly started to connect with one guy in particular.
She began exchanging messages with a handsome 24-year-old man from New York City named Bismarck Litgow.
Although he was a little bit older, they shared so much in common. He's also Dominican. He's hearing impaired.
Bismarck was able to understand her in a way she never felt understood before.
After a few months of messaging online, Frances and Bismarck decided it was time to meet in person.
In December of 2012, on winter break, Frances decided to go and visit Bismarck in New York City.
She decides to take a bus from Rhode Island and meet this person who seems like a match made in heaven.
And he was just as engaging in person as he was online.
They went out, just enjoying everything that New York had to offer.
Manhattan, during the wintertime, specifically the Christmas season, it's every young couple's dream. You have the lights, you have the music playing, the stores.
Frances hadn't experienced anything like this before. She'd never been to New York City. It was really exciting for her.
It was Bismarck, it was the environment, it was the time of year. She just fell in love with all of it.
She even extended her trip to the city to meet Bismarck's family.
They actually spend the holidays together.
His grandmother welcomed Frances into the home and made her feel a part of their family.
But as her visit drew to a close, Frances couldn't imagine her future without Bismarck.
She's so smitten by this new boyfriend of hers, and she decides that she doesn't want to go back to Rhode Island.
So he asked her to stay, and Frances agreed.
She knew she found the man that she was going to spend the rest of her life with. So she put her education on hold and made the move to New York.
They were starting their life together.
She wasn't going to let anything get in the way of them being together.
But now, their promising future could be in jeopardy.
Frances's mother had contacted the NYPD because her daughter was supposed to be home in the Dominican Republic the day before, but she never showed.
She told police, this is not what my daughter usually does. She would definitely reach out to me.
No, you don't understand. She's not here. Something must have happened.
She knew immediately that something was wrong.
Okay, I'm gonna pass this.
Eventually, after much insistence by Ms. Pellerano's mother, the NYPD began an investigation as to her disappearance.
Because she was hearing impaired, law enforcement has said, okay, could this person be in some kind of harm?
But are they already too late? When the report lands on the desk of detectives, they make a chilling realization.
Hey, pull up a copy of that report from last night.
The night before Valentina called in about Frances, police got a report about a body found in the East River.
This body appeared to belong to a young Hispanic woman between the ages of maybe the teens to the early 20s.
She matches Frances's description.
After immigrating from the Dominican Republic, 19-year-old Frances Pellerano was flourishing as a student at the Rhode Island School for the Deaf.
She came to Rhode Island with all the wonders of any young person.
She was able to find the community that she wanted.
She'd also met the man of her dreams, a 24-year-old New Yorker named Bismarck Litgow.
The two instantly connected.
Before long, they were living with each other in New York.
Frances was so happy.
But now, instead of boarding a flight home to visit her family, Frances has mysteriously vanished.
Frances's mother told police she hasn't heard from her, even though she told her mother that she would be flying home.
But before NYPD detectives begin their missing persons investigation, they quickly make a disturbing discovery.
The night before Frances' mom called the police, a body had been found in the East River.
The body that was found was a Hispanic woman, late teens to early 20s, long black hair, thin, and unfortunately, this did match Frances's description.
Could this be Frances Pellerano?
There's only one way to find out.
The NYPD asks Ms. Pellerano's family for photographs that they can use to compare.
However, when they compare the photos, they're back at square one.
As it turned out, it wasn't Frances.
There was still hope that she is still alive.
So detectives doubled down on their search efforts.
They started checking in with hospitals and jails in the area to see if Frances could be there, but no one had any record of her.
They decided to subpoena for her bank records, her social media accounts, her phone records, just to see if there is any indication of recent activity.
While they wait for the records to come in, detectives circle back to Valentina for any information on her daughter's personal life.
Ms. Pellerano's mother tells them that the person they should probably speak to is Ms. Pellerano's boyfriend, Bismarck Lithgow.
She said they had met only a few months ago online in a support group for the hearing impaired, but had gotten really close.
Valentina had called Bismarck when Frances didn't show up, and she said he was worried too. He said as far as he knew, Frances had boarded her flight the day before.
Hoping to confirm Frances's last known whereabouts, detectives track down Bismarck's address and pay him a visit.
This is only going to take a few minutes, ma'am.
They went and they spoke to Bismarck and used an interpreter, and he appeared to be very upset.
Bismarck seemed very concerned about Frances's whereabouts.
So the last time you saw Frances was before her flight?
Yes, she said that. She was going home to see her family.
He appears to be generally cooperative and answers their questions.
She didn't call you when she got home?
No, I haven't heard from her since she left.
Bismarck says that everything was fine between the two of them.
When detectives ask where he's been for the last 2 days, Bismarck says he hasn't gone anywhere out of the ordinary.
I work nights and during the days. I'm here.
Can anyone vouch for that?
Yes, my grandmother.
He goes to work, plays video games, goes to bed, and then pretty much repeats the same cycle.
As for the couple's relationship, Bismarck tells detectives that it couldn't have been better.
He let them know that they've been together for a few months and they are happily in love.
He also says he and Frances have big plans for the future.
We've been saving to get our own place.
They had many plans beyond just living with his grandmother. Frances was going to find a job so the two of them could launch out on their own.
He's working full-time. He wanted to be able to take care of her.
We're going to take a look around.
At the end of their conversation, Bismarck agrees to let the detectives have a look around his apartment.
He said he had nothing to hide.
They didn't see anything that looked suspicious.
Excuse me, everything okay?
While detectives were looking around, Bismarck's grandmother approached them. They explained the situation to her, and she was clearly shaken.
But she is able to confirm Bismarck's alibi.
As far as she knew, the only place that he had been besides work was the bodega down the street.
Which means he couldn't be responsible for Frances's disappearance.
Detectives realized that this was a dead end.
Luckily, they don't have to wait long for their next lead.
All right, great.
Police get the results back from the subpoena and were able to go through her phone records. They're just looking for any recent activity.
They didn't spot anything unusual in her messages, but her phone had stopped pinging the same day she had disappeared. And the last place they could locate it was somewhere in Upper Manhattan.
However, detectives make more progress when they shift their focus to Frances's bank accounts.
What they don't see, interestingly, is the purchase of any tickets for flights or for any travel.
There was no evidence that she actually had plans to go to the Dominican Republic.
It's an unexpected discovery that forces them to consider a new possibility.
Maybe she does not want to be found.
What if the flight was just a cover story and Frances was just trying to disappear on purpose.
And she was not doing it alone.
They see from her phone records, Ms. Pellerano was communicating with another man.
They were flirting back and forth.
Things were really heating up between them.
They're wondering maybe he's the reason for her disappearance.
Just 24 hours after Frances Pellerano was reported missing, NYPD detectives have learned that the young woman had a new man in her life.
They were reviewing all of the materials received from the subpoenas, and they saw some flirty messages.
They see Ms. Pellerano was communicating with a man named Reggie Taylor.
Her and Reggie were flirting back and forth. Maybe this is a relationship that nobody really knows about yet.
Maybe she has suddenly just decided to go be with him.
This could have been her way of breaking things off with Bismarck.
Now police have to reach out to Reggie Taylor and hopefully he can give them some answers.
After pulling Reggie's address, detectives drive out to Long Island, hoping to find Frances.
Is Frances here?
Frances? No.
He was unfortunately alone and not with Frances.
When was the last time you saw her? I've never seen her, actually.
He explains they had discussed meeting up sometime, but he had yet to actually meet her.
When detectives break the news that Frances is missing, Reggie seems taken aback.
Missing? What do you mean? No one's seen her since Thursday. You know, I think that's the last time I talked to her.
Reggie tells detectives that she never texted him back.
He just thought she changed her mind and was ghosting him.
They consider his response to be genuine.
He also says he has no idea what could have happened to her.
He doesn't know anybody that would have wanted to do anything to her.
Did she ever mention her boyfriend, Bismarck?
Nah, I think I remember she said she had a boyfriend.
But when detectives ask to look inside the house, his answer is surprising.
He declines to let them look around. He tells them that they have to have a warrant.
I know my rights, and you're wasting your time here anyways.
This raises suspicions for police.
Detectives are perturbed by the fact that this person with nothing to hide is not letting them look around for proof.
On top of that, Reggie doesn't provide a very concrete alibi.
He said he hadn't left Long Island in a few days.
Can anyone corroborate that? No.
At the time that she was missing, he just got off work and spent the rest of his night at home alone.
While it's not the best alibi, they also have nothing to bring him in on. So for now, they just have to take his word for it.
When detectives return to the city, they run a background check on Reggie. And based on the results, they have good reason to be skeptical.
When they looked up Reggie, he had some restraining orders.
They never resulted in any kind of charges, but we're seeing a pattern here. Prior bad acts with other women.
And detectives are confident that when they check Reggie's alibi, it won't hold up.
They move to get cell site location data from the telephone companies to see if they can go back and track Mr. Taylor's movements, see if maybe he was in the same place as Ms. Pellerano during that time period.
However, the fact that Frances was talking to a new man also raises another possibility.
Now investigators are wondering, did Bismarck find out about Reggie?
When they talked to Bismarck, he said they had a great relationship. They were looking forward to their future together.
But detectives won't have to take Bismarck's word for it.
Detectives, this man is here to talk about Frances Pellerano.
Frances's friend, Luther, from the Rhode Island School of the Deaf, traveled to New York and spoke with police.
He explains that he considered Frances Pellerano to be his best friend, that they had been friends at the school in Rhode Island.
They became really close.
Did she ever mention Reggie Taylor?
No, I don't know him.
What about Bismarck Lithgow?
What about Yes. I know him.
He said he was controlling, he was invasive.
Their relationship was getting out of control.
Luther tells police that Bismarck definitely had something to do with this.
New York City detectives have learned that 19-year-old Frances Pellerano was involved with two men at the time of her disappearance, Bismarck Lithgow and Reggie Taylor.
Both men had told detectives they had nothing to do with her disappearance and didn't know where Frances could be.
But now, Frances's best friend, Luther Ramos, has told detectives that he thinks Bismarck is lying.
Bismarck had made it seem as though everything was perfect, but when Luther spoke to police, he gave a completely different story.
According to Luther, he'd been there for Frances since the beginning of her relationship with Bismarck.
Luther didn't feel comfortable allowing Frances to travel to New York City alone.
When Ms. Pellerano made the decision to go down to New York to meet Bismarck for the first time, Luther went with her.
You met him in person?
Yes. I thought he was an honest man. A good guy.
After meeting him, Luther felt comfortable heading back to Rhode Island while Frances spent the holidays with Bismarck.
He said that he seemed to have good intentions and Frances trusted him.
But Luther also tells detectives he thought they were moving too fast.
He was not in support of her moving to New York City so soon after meeting Bismarck.
They hardly knew each other. I didn't think it was a good idea.
He wanted to vet him out a little bit, but Frances was determined. She was in love.
Luther says he wishes he'd been wrong. But it wasn't long after her move to the city that Frances and Bismarck started having problems.
As the relationship progressed, she started to tell him more about what she was experiencing.
Bismarck wanted to know everywhere she went, what she did, who was she involved with.
She was explaining to him that Bismarck was controlling. Sometimes he was very possessive, even abusive.
Frances felt trapped, and she knew she needed to get out of there.
Luther says he tried to convince her to come back to Rhode Island.
He was advocating for Frances to return to school.
I told her she can move in with me. We can make it work.
Luther was trying to get her to understand that these controlling behaviors were not normal in a loving, supportive relationship.
And he thought his efforts to persuade Frances were paying off.
Frances told him she was ready to get out of there.
She decided that she would reach out to her family and maybe see if they could send her enough money so she can get back home to Dominican Republic.
I think her mom gave her money.
Based on everything they've just heard, detectives are now even more suspicious of Bismarck.
Now the police have two takes on their relationship that are contradicting one another.
At the same time, Reggie Taylor still isn't cooperating with the investigation. So who's the suspect here?
When Reggie's phone records come in, detectives get their answer.
Reggie's phone showed that he was being truthful. He hadn't been anywhere near the city in the last few days, and there was no evidence that they'd ever met in person.
Which moves Bismarck to the top of their suspect list.
He had an alibi, but it wasn't airtight. He could have snuck out the house and did something to Frances while his grandmother was asleep.
And when they start digging into Bismarck's past, they find even more cause for alarm.
They discover that there is a previous domestic incident report involving a relationship of his in the past with a woman named Diana Figueroa.
They reach out to Diana explaining that they have a missing woman and that they'd like to know if there's possibly any information that she could give.
Diana was more than willing to speak to the police because she knew Bismarck in a way that other people didn't.
When she sits down with detectives, Diana tells a story that sounds eerily familiar.
She explains to them she went online and started looking for a romantic partner there. She did, in fact, discover Bismarck Lithgow.
He seemed like such a sweetheart.
He was quite the gentleman. He would take her on dates.
He was always smiling. He was always interacting with people positively.
But she says Bismarck also had a darker side.
After a while, I started to see the real him.
What do you mean by that?
Diana was very well acquainted with his mood swings.
She said that he would go through her emails. He wouldn't allow her to go out by herself.
What are you doing? What is this? It's me leaving. For good.
She had experienced that to the point where she just couldn't take it anymore.
He started accusing her of cheating on him, and she decided, I'm breaking up with you. I'm finished.
I'm done.
But she says Bismarck wasn't.
He started making threats.
If he wasn't in her life, she wasn't going to be in anybody else's life.
I think he even tried to have me killed.
NYPD detectives investigating the disappearance of 19-year-old Frances Pellerano have just received damning information about their prime suspect, Bismarck Lithgow.
Detectives found an ex of Frances's boyfriend, Bismarck, through a domestic violence charge that she had against him, and they brought her in for questioning.
She said they had a very tumultuous and conflicted relationship.
He just was overbearing, overwhelming, and possessive.
It's me leaving. For good. I think he even tried to have me killed.
Diana hears a rumor saying that somebody has a hit out on her.
She didn't think they were serious. That sort of thing just doesn't happen in real life.
Worry didn't come through her until another acquaintance told her the same thing.
At that point, she says she knew it had to be more than a coincidence.
Did you report that to the police?
No. I didn't think anyone would ever believe me.
As precaution, she decided that she was going to move with some family.
She ended up relocating to New Jersey, where Bismarck would not be able to track her down.
She never had any real proof, but due to their relationship and hearing the situation going on with Frances's disappearance, she has no doubt in her mind that Bismarck is involved.
And after hearing Diana's story, detectives are just as convinced.
Bismarck was clearly a dangerous guy. And if Frances was still alive, they were going to have to move fast in order to help her.
Police now find it necessary to find Bismarck and have a second interview with him.
But when they show up at his apartment, their suspect isn't there.
They go to his grandmother's house, and she says that he's not home.
Do you know where we can find him?
He's in the hospital.
Bismarck had been committed to a psychiatric facility.
Bismarck's grandmother says he'd been acting strange since Frances disappeared.
He just seemed so nervous all of a sudden.
In fact, instead of sleeping in his own room, he wanted to sleep with her.
She thought Bismarck was anxious because Frances was missing.
She just thought maybe he was a bit worried.
I didn't know what to do, and I thought he needed some help.
She took him to the hospital, but when she got there, he said that he was feeling suicidal.
He was admitted there to the psychiatric ward.
The detectives make it their business to get to the hospital as fast as possible.
But when they arrive, detectives don't get the answers they're looking for.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law.
He's asking for a lawyer.
After being read his Miranda rights, he decided that he didn't want to speak unless he had some kind of lawyer present.
That's a huge red flag for detectives.
Maybe he wasn't having suicidal thoughts. Maybe he was suffering from having a guilty conscience.
But without a confession, detectives are no closer to finding Frances.
Bismarck was acting suspicious.
Still, there was no evidence of foul play.
They still don't know what happened to Frances or even if she's still alive.
However, when they pull Bismarck's phone records, they uncover a possible clue.
His phone log looked pretty simple. It was his grandmother, which was explainable, and there was also his boss. And there was only one suspicious activity.
In the days leading up to Frances's disappearance, Bismarck had been texting with a man named Alvin Kane.
Alvin Kane was a known criminal that lived in the same building as Bismarck.
Did Bismarck go after Frances the same way he did Diana?
Was he trying to reach out to Alvin for a hitman?
To find out, detectives bring Alvin in for questioning.
When they talked to him, he said he didn't know anything about a woman named Frances Pellerano.
He seemed reluctant to speak to them. He just didn't want to be involved at all.
This is your chance to tell us what went down.
As detectives press him, Alvin reluctantly comes clean.
To us, it looks like you were involved in whatever happened to Frances.
As the police expressed to him that Bismarck had already, they believed, carried out a heinous crime, Alvin had no choice.
All right, fine.
He did not want to lie to the police, and he did end up saying that Bismarck did reach out to him, and he asked if he could buy a gun.
But listen, I told him no. I didn't want to get mixed up in anything.
Alvin didn't know if Bismarck had a problem with someone or if there was a reason why he felt the need to protect himself.
To detectives, Bismarck's intentions were clear.
Detectives believed that he wanted it to do something to Frances.
It showed that Bismarck had a plan.
And detectives are about to discover that this time he'd followed through.
Detectives received the word that Bismarck's grandmother had just called 911.
What she found was appalling.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
It was Frances's dead body.
Detectives searching for 19-year-old Frances Pellerano have just received an urgent call that confirms their fears.
Bismarck's grandmother had just made a frantic call to 911.
They found Frances.
She'd found the body of Frances in the apartment where the two of them had lived.
And not in the condition they'd hoped.
She was getting laundry from the guest room when she noticed something unusual.
There was a mysterious blue storage drum she'd never seen before.
It was a huge barrel, maybe about a 50-gallon barrel. So she took a look.
Police arrive on the scene and they quickly confirm that it is Frances's body.
Judging by her remains, Bismarck's efforts to obtain a gun hadn't been successful.
They were able to see multiple stab wounds to her body.
It's clear he made little effort to conceal his crime afterwards, too.
Beside the barrel is a bag, and it has bloody sheets, bloody clothes, and what appears to be the murder weapon.
There was a big folding hunting knife that had blood on it.
And on the top bunk, they find their crime scene.
The mattress was soaked with blood.
This was the location of the crime.
After the coroner removes Frances's remains for autopsy, further testing of the room reveals the extent of the brutal crime.
If you use the luminol, even if he tried to use bleach to cover it, the luminol is going to choke any traces of blood.
It was a bloodbath.
Though it had not been immediately obvious to the naked eye, there are a significant amount of blood stains.
It was really unbelievable. Just the brutality of it.
So you want to call the mom?
Yes, so.
It's devastating news for Frances's family.
They called Valentina, and she simply could not understand how this could have happened.
They assured her that they will get justice for her little girl.
And when the DNA results come through, they drive the final nail into Bismarck's coffin.
The DNA on the murder weapon did belong to Bismarck.
Detectives returned to the psych hospital and took Bismarck into custody.
They had everything they needed to charge Bismarck Lithgow with the murder of Frances Pellerano.
When his trial begins on February 4th, 2015, the prosecution paints Bismarck as a jealous man who chose murder over watching his girlfriend walk away.
They believe that Bismarck found out that Frances wanted out of the relationship.
He was determined that she ain't gonna get away like the other one did. He was gonna make sure that he had the last say.
He started looking for a gun. He was formulating a plan.
But prosecutors assert that his plan was interrupted.
He found the money and figured out Frances was trying to get back to the Dominican Republic. He felt like he was running out of time.
So he acted quickly.
That night, after his grandmother went to sleep, Bismarck confronted Frances.
She told Bismarck that she was going home.
That caused him to fly into a rage.
He really becomes aggressive and has that mentality that if I can't have you, no one's gonna have you. He didn't think, he acted in a rage.
He was intent on ensuring that Frances felt the pain that he was feeling inside.
Frances was stabbed over 38 times with a fatal stab wound right in the heart.
With every stab, he remembered the betrayal. How dare Frances want to leave him?
Then, once she was dead, Bismarck tried to hide what he'd done.
He had cleaned up the room and hid her body in a plastic drum that he found in the complex's basement.
Every day he thought about, what am I gonna do with this?
Before he could get rid of the body, though, he was committed to the hospital.
When Bismarck's attorneys present his side to the court, it's less of a defense and more of an excuse.
The defense is what's called extreme emotional disturbance. And it is kind of when something happens to you that's so traumatic, so upsetting that you essentially lose control of yourself and you do something that you wouldn't normally do.
However, when the jury renders its verdict, it's clear there's no doubt about Bismarck's guilt.
They only took about an hour and a half, and collectively they agreed that Bismarck was guilty of second-degree murder.
The judge sentenced him to 21 years to life in prison for destroying the lives of Frances's family and for taking away the life of dear Frances.
But no amount of punishment can make up for the fact that Frances Pellerano's life ended in tragedy before it ever really began.
It's a shame that this young girl who had everything in front of her had her life cut short by a very short relationship.
Frances didn't deserve what happened to her. No one deserves that.
What's your favorite subject?
She was a struggling single mom doing everything she could.
You guys want to play a game?
Yeah. She was dedicated to her children.
She showed them that she loved them.
To see her evolve into a mother was a beautiful thing.
Until it all came to a horrific end.
It was a bloodied crime scene.
One of the worst cases I've ever looked at.
Who does this?
Was it the father of her oldest?
He was hustling.
He was always in and out of jail.
Was it the married man who'd been keeping her a secret?
There has to be an underlying personality disorder there. To live a double lifestyle.
Do you want to tell me why I got a call today from your wife?
You throw infidelity into the mix, and that complicates things.
So you're confident you can mess around with him?
Or was it the new man in her life?
He became a little bit obsessed, like talking crazy.
He was sending threatening letters.
When the investigation begins, only one thing is certain.
You don't know the monster that's lying inside people.
Can't love a monster.
November 20th, 2010. It's a quiet Saturday morning in Tallahassee, Florida, a city of 200,000 that's not on many tourist itineraries.
Tallahassee area is a very complex city. Not only is it the capital, but it is a college town with numerous campuses in the area.
Mostly it's a nice, tranquil community, great place to raise a family.
But for one Tallahassee family, this Saturday is anything but tranquil.
Hey, it's Brandy. Leave a message.
Hey, Brandy, it's Mom again. Give me a call when you get this.
Brandy's family members hadn't heard from her, which was very unusual.
Her mother was starting to feel that unsettling feeling.
And as her worry grows, Brandy's mother makes another call.
Brandy's mother called a neighbor who lived across the street.
She had her go over and see if she was all right.
It's probably nothing, but...
It's no problem at all. I was just walking out the door anyway. I'm gonna call you back, okay?
That intuition is not something that is easily ignored.
When the neighbor gets to Brandy's house, her mother's intuition proves correct.
Brandy?
She looked through the window and saw Brandy Peters' body there in the foyer.
Brandy!
27-year-old Brandy Peters grew up in a tight-knit family.
She was very family-oriented. Loved the family.
They spent a lot of time together. She was definitely very loved.
You could even say she was a little spoiled.
She was the baby. So I would say she probably was the diva of the family.
She was real feisty.
And she always turned the boys' heads.
She was into dressing nice. She was a beautiful girl. Guys was after her.
But Brandy had her sights on something different. At 21, she started dating a man named Mario Michaels.
He was much older than us.
It wasn't exactly the most stable of relationships. It was very tumultuous.
He was always in and out of jail.
But when Mario wasn't behind bars, there was little doubt they were in love.
They had a good relationship.
They also had 2 children together, twin girls.
She took on that motherly role. She loved them.
But with Mario frequently out of the picture, Brandy was often raising the kids on her own.
It was very difficult for Brandy.
Because it's a struggle doing it by yourself.
What she needed was someone she could depend on. Someone who wasn't Mario.
She was looking for someone who had a good job, had his head on his shoulder, wasn't in and out of jail, and could be a part of the kid's life.
Brandy thought she might have found him in 28-year-old Henry Segura.
Her and Henry met at a gas station. Traded numbers.
How are you?
I'm good.
When they started dating, it looked as if Henry checked all the boxes.
He wasn't in the streets. He wasn't a convicted felon. He wasn't living that lifestyle.
He also had a good job.
How was the drive over?
He was an over-the-road welder.
He traveled from job site to job site.
And he was good with her kids.
He had actually a very close relationship with the twins.
She thought she had someone that was different. She thought she had met the real thing.
There was only one problem.
Do you want to tell me why I got a call today from your wife?
Henry Segura was married.
I'm sorry.
The news came as quite a shock to Brandy.
I didn't mean for all this to happen.
Why didn't you tell me?
Look, it's not what you think.
Henry told Brandy that he and his wife were on the verge of splitting up.
That can be really challenging, wanting them to choose you and remaining in that situation.
A situation made even more difficult by the fact that Brandy was carrying Henry's son.
What do we do now?
It's going to be fine. I'm not going anywhere.
He has displayed himself as a decent provider, father figure to the girls, and now it's like I'm having his child, so I have to weigh my options, and she stayed.
But after the birth of their child, Brandy came to a realization.
It became clear to her that he had no intention of leaving his wife.
She said, I'll always be a number 2 or 3 in this person's life.
Brandy broke things off with Henry and spent the next 2 years starting over as a single mom.
She was just trying to get on her feet.
To be there for 3 children is not easy.
But she rose to the occasion.
She got a new home and a new job.
She was doing home health. She was a home health aide.
She was looking forward to what the future holds.
Only now, the bright future Brandy imagined may never come to pass.
Unable to get a hold of Brandy, her mother called a neighbor to go knock on Brandy's door.
Brandy! She saw her laying in the foyer. She saw a large amount of blood.
Brandy!
And called law enforcement.
When officers arrive on scene, they make forced entry into the home.
She's inside.
But there's nothing they can do for Brandy.
She had gunshot wounds. There appeared to be trauma to her head.
She was dead at the scene.
Then, responding officers clear the rest of Brandy's house.
The officers had to make sure there weren't any other victims, but also make sure the suspect isn't there.
There's no sign of the shooter.
But in the bathroom, the officers made a horrific discovery.
Hey, we got more bodies in here.
They found the 3 children in the bathtub.
The children were dead.
Single mother Brandy Peters had spent the past 2 years creating a stable life for her 3 children after ending her relationship with the father of her youngest.
She was married the whole time.
Because it had been a struggle, but she was really starting to get focused on, let me get the kids settled in school, let me focus on where I need to take my career.
But now, Brandy's fresh start has come to a tragic end.
Brandy and her 3 children are dead.
No one had had any contact with her since the night before.
When homicide detectives arrive at the scene, they start by examining Brandy's body, which lies just inside the front door.
There was a bloody crime scene right there in the foyer.
She'd been beaten and has what appear to be gunshot wounds.
Suspiciously, though, no casings were there. So that tells us two things. Either it was cleaned up or someone used a revolver.
And while Brandy died in the foyer, detectives can tell the attack wasn't confined to that area.
A violent struggle occurred in there.
There was a large amount of blood down the hallway.
The children, on the other hand, appear to have been drowned.
The person who committed the crime ended up putting all three children in the bathtub together.
Who does this? Who would kill kids and then not only that, but drown them in a bathtub?
That's just not something you see very often.
While the CSI team finishes inside, detectives speak with the neighbor who found Brandy.
The neighbor was a good friend of Brandy's. They would go to pick up their children together from school.
She had no idea who might have done this.
Brandy, she's good people.
When the detectives talk to other neighbors, they're just as shocked by what happened.
There was a lot of community concern. This is a small little raise your family type of community, and not that's ever supposed to happen, but you definitely don't want it happening here.
However, while the neighbors are understandably worried about a killer coming into their community, the detectives don't believe they're dealing with a random crime.
There was no forced entry into the residence, so that led them to believe that she must have known this person.
A lack of forced entry isn't the only thing that suggests Brandy knew her killer.
It was just such a brutal attack. Gunshot after gunshot and blow after blow. Law enforcement thought it was very personal.
Is that what detectives are dealing with here? Eager to find out, they turn to Brandy's family, who have started arriving at the scene as word of the murders spreads.
It was just a tough moment that day, you know, when get a phone call saying Brandy and the girls had been killed.
I know this is difficult, but I need to ask you a few questions first.
Believe it.
We really were trying to gather as much information. We were doing that the best we can.
It was tough. This is something that happened at your back door with your own family.
Oh, I can't believe it. I just saw them.
When was that?
Oh, yesterday, around 5 o'clock.
She was supposed to take the twins with her for a sleepover, but the twins didn't want to go.
And that was the last time you saw her?
Yeah. We talked a little later on the phone around 7, but she didn't answer again after that.
Turning to Brandy's relationships, her mother says she never approved of Henry Segura, her grandson's father.
She made me aware that Henry was married.
Was Brandy okay with that?
For the most part.
She was like, it is what it is.
What about Henry's wife?
Yeah, they went back to her.
She said Henry didn't really come around much after the baby was born.
He would bring diapers over, but he couldn't really be involved.
And the twins' dad?
Mario? Yeah, he's around.
Mario would bring them birthday presents. Mario would bring them Christmas gifts. They did communicate.
But Brandy's mother said she's not a big fan of Mario either.
He was in the streets, putting the streets first.
However, that isn't the only thing Brandy's mother has against Mario.
According to Brandy's mother, Mario was a deadbeat dad.
She just took him to court.
The week of the homicide, he was ordered to pay child support.
How much did he owe?
Around $20,000, maybe a little more.
Detectives investigating the murder of Brandy Peters and her 3 children have learned a judge recently ordered her ex-boyfriend, Mario Michaels, to pay Brandy more than $20,000 in back child support.
Often individuals would prefer not to go through the state. They can resolve those disputes amicably. And it sounds like that was the only option that she felt like she had at that point.
She said, if you're not going to be a stand-up guy, then I'm going to have to go another route with your child support.
Could the judgment against Mario have anything to do with the murders?
He definitely is a person of interest.
And the detectives won't have any trouble finding him.
He was beside himself with grief. This man was hurt.
But just because Mario was showing emotion still doesn't mean he'd do it.
Questioned by the detectives, Mario insists he didn't have anything to do with the murders.
How did you hear about what happened?
He explained to me that he got word through the grapevine, so to speak, that an incident had occurred.
Well, we heard that you and Brandy weren't getting along too well.
That was just money issues.
He didn't deny that he'd have problems with Brandy over the thousands owed in child support.
I know I owe her, I just don't have it.
He provided us information about Brandy, their relationship, his relationship with his daughters.
He definitely wouldn't have hurt his own girls. He loved those twins.
Okay, so where were you last night?
With my girlfriend at a motel.
He was cooperative with police as far as giving them information.
Why don't you and I go talk?
Not only was Mario cooperative, it appears he is telling the truth.
When the detectives followed up on his alibi, the motel had a record of him being there that night. And his girlfriend said he never left the room.
Thank you so much.
With Mario apparently in the clear, detectives move on to Henry Segura, the father of Brandy's youngest child.
He agreed to come to talk with us. He was very even-keeled, very calm, very cordial, but that's not unusual. Everybody grieves differently.
And when detectives asked about his relationship with Brandy, Henry admitted it was complicated.
It started off as an affair, and it was supposed to go into something else, but for whatever reason, that never transpired. But he and Brandy were working it out.
What kind of person is she?
Spunky. She's down to earth. She's real sweet. She's a cool person.
But he says things went downhill with Brandy once his wife learned about the affair.
She caught me on the phone bill one day. Seen my phone bill, saying I was calling this number a lot.
Henry said his wife had confronted Brandy about the affair.
She just would tell her, stop messing with me and yada, yada, yada.
But Brandy was kind of like throwing gas on the fire.
She texted my wife, called her something fat, something.
According to Henry, that's when he decided to cut things off.
I said, I'm tired of you just being disrespectful to my wife. I said, I don't think me mess around with her.
He had to break it off with Brandy, and he got back with his wife.
But investigators wonder, was this too little, too late?
Your wife doesn't like Brandy, does she?
She didn't like that much, no. Unless she wouldn't kill her.
But would Henry?
They asked him when was the last time he had seen Brandy.
I was in her house Wednesday.
This past Wednesday?
That's 48 hours before the killings.
What are you doing here? What's going on?
Just seeing it Wednesday.
Okay.
Henry explains that he couldn't see his son as often as he liked.
It was my first time going there in a while.
But he said he was trying to do right by them.
I put myself on child support.
So she never filed the paperwork for it? You did it?
I did it myself.
Henry also has an alibi for the evening of the murder.
He said, I was at home. He told them, you can check my cell phone. Check with my wife.
Are there any other numbers?
He even agrees to give detectives a DNA sample.
He was cooperative.
And when the detectives pull his cell phone records, They confirmed that he was home on the evening of the murder.
His wife also told police that she and Henry spent the evening at home.
Okay, bye-bye.
However, just as the investigation seems to be at a dead end,
Homicide, Lewis.
a friend of Brandy's contacts the detectives with a new lead.
I have some information. I'm not sure if it's connected, but I thought you should know.
She said Brandy had been in contact with a federal prison inmate named Enrique Sanchez.
Enrique has been writing letters to Brandy.
These letters that he sent, they were threatening.
A friend of Brandy Peters has told the detectives investigating her murder that the mother of three had been corresponding with a prison inmate named Enrique Sanchez.
This girl, her peoples was, locked up, and she had somebody that was looking for someone to be a pen pal with.
Mr. Sanchez sent Brandy letters from the Department of Corrections.
For the person serving time, it helps them feel like they have someone in their corner. They don't feel like they have to do that time alone.
And Brandy got something out of it too.
She's a single mom. She has 3 kids. She has a lot going on in her life. So to be able to communicate with someone and have a connection with someone that you really don't have to make time for, that might have been something that she was able to gain that connection and that stimulation from, but not devote a lot of her actual energy or time to.
But their casual relationship eventually took a serious turn.
Yeah, he actually proposed to her.
Enrique told Brandy he wasn't just any inmate.
He said that he was a high-level member of a criminal organization out of Chicago and promised Brandy fortune just to marry him.
The friend admits that Brandy was intrigued by Enrique's offer.
But she also wondered if it was a little too good to be true.
She was really hesitant.
Brandy became suspicious of Mr. Sanchez.
According to Brandy's friend, when she declined Enrique's offer, he refused to take no for an answer.
He became a little bit obsessed, just, like talking crazy.
And 2 days before the murder, Enrique sent Brandy a menacing letter. And in the letter, he accused her of being disloyal.
Was it just a coincidence? Or did it have something to do with Brandy's death?
If Enrique was some sort of gang leader, he could have arranged a hit.
It was such a violent crime. I don't know of another crime as violent as this in Tallahassee. Thank you.
When the detectives received the autopsy results, there's no doubt they're dealing with a cold-hearted killer.
Brandy was shot 8 times.
They've also found evidence that one of the children had been shot.
We thought all 3 were drowned. We found one was shot in the head.
2 of those children were alive when they were put in that bathtub, and their 3rd sibling was used to hold them down. I don't even know what to say. It's awful.
To explore the possibility that Brandy and her children were the victims of a gang hit, the detectives set up an interview with Enrique in federal prison.
During an investigation, we have to go down every single lead.
Okay, yes, she turned down my proposal, but that doesn't mean that I killed her.
However, he does repeat the claim that he's a high-ranking member of the powerful Vice Lords gang.
Mr. Sanchez said that he was involved in various other criminal activities that were somewhat high profile. Gave us quite the story.
But detectives came away from the interview suspecting it was just that, a story.
And we pretty much figured out that he wasn't fully there.
There definitely are indicators that he's suffering from a severe mental illness.
And when detectives did a little digging, they discovered he wasn't in prison for anything gang-related.
The reason why he's incarcerated was for sending threatening letters to governors.
And he was someone who kind of perpetually took credit for a lot of different crimes.
With Enrique looking like a dead end, the detectives regroup.
Hoping for a new lead, they subpoenaed Brandy's cell phone records.
When we're doing a homicide investigation, it's like casting a net for fishing. See what comes back.
The records show that on the day of the murder, Brandy had been in frequent contact with a number registered to a man named Aaron Bishop.
So we immediately had an interview with him.
Do you know a woman named Brandy Peters?
No, I never heard of her.
Figuring they've caught Aaron in a lie, the detectives confront him about the calls from his phone.
Aaron's like, what? Hold on, what phone?
When detectives explained, he said he'd given that phone to a coworker.
This coworker had the name?
Yes, Henry Segura.
Which means that shortly before her death, Brandy had been on the phone with her ex-boyfriend.
Detectives investigating the murder of Brandy Peters and her 3 children have reason to believe she'd been in contact with her ex, Henry Segura, in the hours leading up to the murders.
It started when they traced the number from Brandy's phone records to a friend of Henry's named Aaron Bishop.
They worked together doing jobs on the welding site.
We were out on the job and I messed up my phone.
He had spilt a drink on top of the phone and the phone stopped working.
Aaron says he'd given the phone to Henry.
Henry takes the phone, puts it in a bag of rice, which is a technique to dry out your phone, and he realized that it still worked.
He asked me if I wanted it back, but I'd already got a new one, so I said he could keep it.
So now Henry thought in his mind, well, oh, okay, cool. I have a second phone that doesn't have my name on it.
Remember, that's how Henry's wife initially found out about his affair with Brandy.
She caught me on the phone bill.
Had he also lied about having a second phone?
Are there any other numbers?
To be sure, the detectives subpoena the tower records for Aaron's old phone.
What they learned could be the key to solving this case.
That phone was at Brandy Peters' house the night of the murder.
Literally on top of the crime scene, right on top of it. And it had been there for hours prior to the murder.
All the detectives need to do now is prove that it was Henry doing the stalking. And the phone records may reveal a way to do it.
Brandy's number wasn't the only one that popped up in the phone records.
Whoever had the phone had also been in regular contact with a number registered to a woman named Letitia Lyle.
Hello? They spoke to her and she confirmed she was talking to Henry Segura on that phone.
The phone came up under another name, but it was always Henry.
So, why did he use another phone?
Well, he's married.
She was another girl he was having a relationship with.
She was enamored with Henry Segura. She thought that this was a relationship that was going to go somewhere.
But Letitia says she'd recently seen another side of Henry.
He had anger problems.
She noticed how much of a temper that he had.
Like, he put his hands on you?
No, nothing like that. He was just angry all the time.
What about?
This girl, he said she was always trying to put a kid on him.
According to Letitia, he just was venting and venting and venting about Brandy and the situation about the child support. And the fact that he had to pay this money to Brandy for a child that he didn't even think was his.
Which sounds an awful lot like a motive for murder.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
After Letitia confirms that Henry had a second secret phone, the detectives bring him in for another round of questioning.
What's your other cell phone number?
I don't have no other cell phone.
Of course, the detectives know that's not true.
I know you have a second.
Once he realizes the detectives have caught him in the lie, he admits he had another phone. In the past.
That was a while ago. That was before Brandy passed away.
He used it to talk to girls he was seeing on the side.
What'd you do with it? I mean,
Throw it away.
Why'd you throw a phone away?
So I don't need it.
When detectives asked when exactly he got rid of that phone, he was just as vague.
I don't remember. I just remember getting rid of the phone. I don't want her to find the phone. Like I say, I don't see where that has anything to do with this.
The detectives, on the other hand, believe Henry's lies about the phone tie everything together.
He never told police about that second cell phone because he knew that with that information, they'd be able to see that his location was consistent with Brandy Peters' house the night of this murder.
I know you were over at her house on Friday. Okay?
We confronted Henry about that information, and at that point, he declined to cooperate any further in the investigation.
I don't answer no more of y'all questions. I don't like the way y'all seem like you're trying to railroad me into being someone that killed a lady and her kids, which being one of my children. I don't have anything to say. Y'all still need to question me. Can I go home now?
For now, detectives have no choice but to let Henry go.
We never felt we had the wrong person. But the evidence we had in this case was very circumstantial. You had a phone, you had a timeline.
And we know he had a motive.
So, to learn more about that motive, detectives dig into the court records.
What they uncover confirms what Letitia told them.
He was ordered to pay a lot of money in child support.
In fact, he owed Brandy even more money than Mario.
Detectives investigating the murder of single mom Brandy Peters and her 3 small children have discovered that Henry Segura, the father of her youngest child, owed her a significant amount of child support.
Henry told police that he had put himself on child support.
She never filed the paperwork for it. You did it?
I didn't, so.
But what he hadn't told them was that he'd gotten significantly behind on his payments.
He's an over-the-road welder. He can have a job 1 month and not have a job for 2 more months.
However, in talking to Henry's co-workers, the detectives learned that he had a plan to deal with his money problems.
Henry had a chance to go to Afghanistan to do military contracting as a welder and get 6 figures.
However, there was one big problem in his plan.
If you have child support payments outstanding, then you cannot leave the country.
With Brandy and their son standing between him and a potential 6-figure payoff, the detectives believe Henry had made a choice.
He felt that he'd be much better off if she was dead and maybe even the kid.
And when the detectives receive the results of the forensics testing from the crime lab, they're convinced that Henry had done the unthinkable to get rid of his child support problems.
Henry Segura's DNA is on the grab bar of the bathtub.
That puts him at the scene where the children were drowned.
Finally, in September of 2011, more than a year after the murders, the authorities place Henry under arrest for murder.
When he was arrested, we attempted to speak to him again, but he didn't want to talk.
In fact, the news that Henry had been arrested for killing both Brandy and his own son leaves nearly everyone speechless.
When it came out that he was involved, it was a shock to think that he could do something like this.
The crime was so heinous that soon after Henry's arrest, prosecutors announced that they would be seeking the death penalty.
It's one of the worst cases I've ever looked at, and if you have kids, your stomach turns. And if anybody deserved death penalty, it was going to be the subject that did this.
There was no offers and no deals.
When Henry goes on trial for murder, the prosecutors maintain that his motive was simple.
Henry Segura committed these murders because he didn't want to pay child support.
It's a need to take back control. The emotional side takes over the rational side.
And according to the prosecutors, there is no doubt that it was Henry who killed Brandy and the kids.
We know from his second cell phone that he was there that night.
And then his DNA being on the bathtub of the house.
What do you want now, Henry?
The prosecutors also argued that Henry's actions that night proved the crime was premeditated.
You have your main phone at home to create an alibi, and then took your second phone with you.
Then he'd gone over to Brandy's house.
We need to talk.
Okay. Come in.
But at some point, after he'd gotten in the door, Henry pulled his gun.
Brandy went to try to either get the phone or even get, whatever weapon she may have had. And I think he started to shoot as she was going down the hall. And then she was beat to death by the gun. But she was not going to go down without a fight, especially for those children. She fought that fight for her kids.
Once Brandy was dead, Henry went looking for his son. But he'd made a miscalculation.
I don't think the twins were supposed to be home. I think it was just supposed to be his son and Brandy at the house. And now he realizes he has to take care of all of them.
How could you do such a thing? To have taken the life of your own flesh and blood, and innocent children, and the mother of your child? He's a monster.
And you kill your son in order for you not to have to pay $20,000 in child support? 20 grand, bro?
There was no conscience there. He cared more about protecting himself and protecting his lifestyle.
When it's the defense's turn, they argue that Henry is totally innocent.
The defense in this case was always Henry didn't do it. You got the wrong person.
And when the defense put Henry on the stand, he certainly did not look like a killer.
He gets his direct from his defense attorney. It comes across clean, calm, he's cool, collected, no issues.
But the defense's strategy isn't without risk.
We knew that he definitely wasn't always respectful of women, just looking at the evidence in his cell phone, how he talked to the women he was in relationships with.
He had anger problems.
So let's see how he reacts to being questioned by a woman.
The cross-examination by Sarah Dugan allowed the jury to see the true colors of Henry.
When he felt challenged, especially by a woman, he realized and started lashing back at her.
The switch flips, and you get to see the monster that's inside him.
The jury definitely saw it.
Henry Segura was found guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder.
However, they stopped short of the death penalty.
Henry Segura was sentenced to life in prison.
The family can finally have closure. Justice was served. It's done. The book is closed on this one.
But no amount of prison time will ever make up for the pain Henry caused, or the lives he took.
This will always be just a sad tragedy. I could never really understand why this happened to Brandy, and let alone those children.
There's no real closure for that, but you do find ways to cope. There are the memories that get you through. They were loved.
Johnny loved his kids. He was what we would call that family man. When I got that call, I can't even explain the words that I was just numb. You know, it was just like, how? Like, why? It was just like, you know, like complete darkness.
He slowly and cautiously approaches the van, and there's a person in the driver's seat not moving.
His foot was on the brake pedal. He was slumped over.
There is blood pooled underneath of him while he's in the vehicle.
She had boyfriends. She had admirers.
This was a man that was insanely jealous.
So they made a list, and he just started wanting to click them off, one by one.
Would she prove it to him? Would she kill every man on that hit list?
White Marsh Township sits just north of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
White Marsh Township is approximately 40 miles from Philadelphia. It has an artsy, historical vibe to it, also colonial. In comparison to a major city, it's not a place where you would find violent crime. It just doesn't happen.
It's December 18th, 2001. A week before Christmas. Around 9 a.m., a White Marsh police officer is out on patrol, making a routine check in the parking lot of a bridal warehouse.
He drives upon a parking lot. Now, because it's his post, his beat, he knows it should be empty, but he sees a van tucked away in the corner.
He thought that maybe he was gonna find a van that was broken down or someone that needed help, something simple, a flat tire.
But what was unusual about this is that the vehicle is running, so he just decides to approach it. He slowly and cautiously approaches the van. As he gets to the driver's side door and looks through the window, he notices there's a person in the driver's seat not moving.
The officer can see he has what appears to be a gunshot wound to the head, and he calls for backup in an ambulance. They go to try to help the man, but then they realize he's been shot 3 times, actually once in the head and 2 in the chest. So he is pronounced dead on the scene.
You have a crime scene at that point. You cordon off the area, and you start determining what evidence that you can find in that area. Do we have cameras? Do we have witnesses? What physical evidence is in and around that vehicle? They searched the body of our victim. He had his wallet on him. And at that point, they were able to identify the victim as a 36-year-old man, Mr. John Davis.
Not only was this van still running, but the deceased victim's foot was on the brake pedal. It's almost as if he were trying to escape.
Born in 1965, John Davis was raised in a large but tight-knit family in South Philadelphia.
It was 6 of us, 3 boys, 3 girls. We all grew up in the house together, you know. As being young kids, we always argued, fought, you know, but one of the main things is we really loved each other.
John was the glue of the family. He made sure everybody stayed focused. He made sure everybody did what they were supposed to do.
He played basketball, you know, he was known as JD. He played ball very well. Everybody just knew he was going to make it as a ball player.
He was an amazing basketball player with NBA dreams. However, he put his dreams aside and decided to work hard. After John graduated high school, he went straight to work.
John fell in love at an early age.
She changed his life. This was his person. This was the woman that he knew would mother his children. And that's exactly what happened.
He had 3 kids with his first love, and with relationships, sometimes you separate.
He found himself broken up from the love of his life, and he decided he had to move forward and move on. And he started dating another woman. This other woman got pregnant, and John had a 4th child.
Johnny loved his kids. Well, he took care of them. He provided for them. He was what we would call that family man. And you could see it by him always being there. And that's one thing that I really loved about him. He had kids and he provided for them.
John had worked his way up to becoming a manager, and he was well liked. I mean, everyone liked him and respected him as a manager and his leadership.
But in December 2001, the hardworking father won't be celebrating the upcoming holidays with his family. The 36-year-old sits dead in his van from 3 gunshot wounds to the head and chest. A forensic team arrives to assist detectives as they search the vehicle for clues.
They are looking for anything of value that they can use as far as bullet fragments, casing shells, fingerprints on the van, anything at all. What's surprising is that forensics teams found $700 on the victim. Why is that surprising? It's Christmas time. That tells us that robbery was not a motive.
A close look at the gunshot wounds gives insight into the attack.
John Davis was shot inside of his van from behind, which means that there had to be a suspect in the back seat of the van. However, the 2 gunshot wounds to his upper torso showed that he had to have been shot from outside of the van through the driver's side door.
So was there one shooter outside of the van and another shooter inside of the van, or was there just one shooter who shot inside of the van, then got out and fired more shots? So that's what police are trying to figure out. Was there one shooter or 2?
They looked to see what evidence was in the van and around the van in that parking lot. There were no fingerprints, nothing, no kind of DNA or evidence that was around the van. So what was clear was that the suspect or suspects wiped down that van. Whoever's responsible for these murder, they took their time, they cleaned up after themselves.
As investigators continue to process the scene, employees of the bridal warehouse begin arriving for the morning shift.
People started to come into work. They recognized Mr. Davis's vehicle.
John Davis happened to be a supervisor at the bridal warehouse.
They are shocked by their employer's sudden death.
Not only did employees respect him, but the employees loved him.
We are discovering that this was the ideal employee. More importantly, he was an ideal boss.
They tell investigators that John had been the last one to leave the night before.
This was an ordinary night. John was closing up the bridal warehouse. He was preparing to go home.
His coworkers say that he did the normal supervisor stuff. He locked up, he was near the loading dock. This is where he parked his minivan. And there was nothing outside of the normal of him leaving work.
John was a man of routine. He did the same thing. He parked in the same spot. He went the same route. So that led police to believe that this person had to have known John well enough to know where he would be at the time he was killed.
It became clear pretty early that robbery was not a motive of this murder. This is somebody who knew Mr. Davis, who knew where he worked and what his schedule was.
They couldn't find anything messy about John Davis. And it just became like a question of like, who would want this man dead?
Detectives in White Marsh, Pennsylvania, investigate the shooting death of 36-year-old John Davis. They speak with John's co-workers at the bridal warehouse where he worked and where he was shot dead in the parking lot.
They loved John, it was clear, but one person had told police that it looked like he was a little preoccupied on that day.
Another co-worker advised that there was a female employee that used to work at the bridal shop warehouse, and she was a little chummy with Mr. Davis. Her name was Vernell Jones, but she no longer works there.
The employees state that Vernell had been calling John both on his work line and his cell phone, requesting a meeting.
John just wasn't sure if it was good to meet up with her because she had just been a big source of drama at the store.
The employee tells police that 3 months earlier, Vernell's boyfriend showed up at the shop demanding that John come outside.
John had a conversation with him, and then that was it. We don't really know what he said to him, but something was said to make him stay away from Vernell.
After that, John wanted nothing to do with Vernell as a friend or an employee.
Vernell, she was fired because of all the drama that she created at the workplace. Now, Mr. Davis, he kind of just wanted to let it go. He wanted to drift as far apart from her as he could.
He ended that relationship. That employee was no longer employed by the business. She had moved on, so nobody heard from her, and she really wasn't around. But out of the blue, all of a sudden, she was calling the bridal shop again, leaving messages for John at the bridal shop.
She's reaching out. She's calling John's cell phone. She's calling the warehouse. As you can imagine, John's probably a little sketchy at this point. He's dealt with her already once as a work buddy. He doesn't want this drama in his life anymore, so he's reluctant to even reach back.
But Vernell was persistent. John gave in.
Vernell kept calling, and then she left 3 messages on the bridal warehouse's office phone. He decided he was going to give her a call back, and ultimately he decided that he would meet up with Vernell.
The employee tells investigators the meeting was set up for between 9 and 9:30 the night before. After accessing John's work voicemail, investigators confirmed the meeting and obtained the phone number Vernell used.
At this point, Vernell is the last person to see John alive. Did she see anything? Does she know anything? Could she offer some helpful information that would help the investigators solve this case and catch his killer?
As they wait for the number to be traced, detectives deliver the devastating news to John's family.
I was working. They said that I had a phone call. You know, I literally went to the phone and they said that, you know, something happened to Johnny, you know, he got killed. I mean, everything just went blank. I didn't know what to do, what to say, and all kinds of thoughts was coming to, you know, our minds, but at the end it was just like a blank. Why? What, you know, how? They questioned us about his activities, his business dealings, and, you know, the people that he was connected to, friends, and they asked us did he have any problems with anybody? And we never knew him to have problems with anybody. Because of the way he was, you know, how could this have happened? It was just like a shock to many of us.
Investigators hope that Vernell Jones might have some answers. They traced the phone number to an insurance company in King of Prussia.
They confirmed that Vernell's an employee of this business and they want to help in this investigation, so they end up giving detectives her full name and her home address. They went to the house and they were able to interview her. Vernell did give them confirmation that she was the person communicating with Mr. Davis.
She did say that she worked at the bridal warehouse one point and that her and John were friends.
John and Vernell's relationship goes from professional to a little personal. He becomes that ear that she can go to. And sometimes he's weighing in. They exchange phone numbers, and the conversations from lunch become conversations on the phone. And now he's one of her confidants.
She said that they actually stayed friends after she was fired, that there really just were no hard feelings there.
In fact, she was reaching out to John with the hope she might get her job back.
She stated to police that she was calling for a job for herself and her friends because she had worked there before. So Vernell wanted to go back because it was such a great environment.
John finally got back with her, and he did agree to meet with her the night before when he got off work.
But she changed her mind, and instead, she went and hung out with her boyfriend, Kenny Burno.
So Vernell gave the story that her and Kenneth had gone out to dinner, had stopped somewhere, purchased beer, and spent the rest of the night at home together. So detectives are going to try to verify this story.
That same afternoon, police talked to Vernell's boyfriend, Kenneth Burno.
Kenneth confirms the story that he and Vernell were together. They were together all night.
So he then says that he hadn't been to the bridal warehouse, that he doesn't know John, so he doesn't know anything about any type of confrontation.
They kind of have hit a dead spot because they're both saying this, they're both giving these alibis that are matching, and there's no other leads at this point.
That's when they realized that Vernell and her boyfriend were actually telling the truth, and that there was a twist in this case that no one could really ever see coming, that there was another victim.
My brother had passed away right before Christmas. We were thinking about, like, why right before Christmas? That was a hard season. He was such a hard worker that I didn't take off from work. The reason why I didn't take off from work, because I was honoring him for what he was really known for, work. And I said, I need to work because in that sense, I was honoring my brother, and I went to work, and, that was a choice that I made, to work during the passing of a loved one.
The same day that John Davis was found dead in his minivan from 3 gunshot wounds, Pennsylvania detectives attend his autopsy.
They were able to collect 3 bullets from the victim. They were able to hand that over to investigators, and they discovered that it belonged to a .38 Special manufactured by Winchester.
That is submitted into the evidence, and it's submitted into a database, the National Integrated Bullet Identification System.
That would determine whether or not those bullets were involved with any other crime.
Soon after, investigators get a lead from Philadelphia police.
There was a report of a shooting that was associated with a carjacking that occurred back in October of 2001 of a Philadelphia firefighter.
The story he gave detectives was simple. He was in a carjacking. There was a struggle. He didn't want his car to be stolen, and he felt like he could overtake the assailant.
He was shot once in the shoulder with a .38, and this is just like the one that was used to kill John.
Detectives knew this was a lead that they were going to check out. They immediately tracked down this particular firefighter and asked for his cooperation.
On December 21st, White Marsh detectives speak with the victim.
At that point, the firefighter admitted that he was having a rendezvous with a woman that he was seeing for a couple of months, and that she was actually the person responsible for shooting him.
According to the firefighter, she had arranged their meeting for October 5th, 2001.
On that particular night, the firefighter takes the woman to a bar and they have a couple drinks, and then they go to a park right near the Philadelphia Zoo.
Once they park, she immediately performs an oral sex act on him. Now, he knows this is their norm. This is what usually happens when they meet up. So there were no red flags at this particular time.
So she does that. And when doing that, she decided that she needed to go to the bathroom. She gets out and disappears, basically, into the darkness.
The firefighter, he's thinking they're going to continue this because, once again, that is their norm. But she gets back into the vehicle, and she brandishes a weapon on him and shoots him.
She only got one shot off because he was able to wrestle the gun away from her. But the most bizarre thing in this whole situation is that after he wrestled the gun away from her, he gives her the gun back, and she puts the gun back in her purse, and she leaves.
He names his attacker.
He was shot by Vernell Jones.
The firefighter tells detectives his relationship with Vernell started earlier that summer. But it ended when the firefighter had a run-in with her boyfriend, Kenneth Burno. But 3 months later, Vernell reached out.
He thought he had put that situation behind him. However, on October 5th, 2001, Vernell contacts him, and although he was hesitant, he decides, you know what, I'm gonna see her again. This was somebody that was in his system. He could not stay away from Vernell.
He agreed to meet her, but that meeting almost cost him his life.
He says he didn't report the shooting because he had his own plans for payback.
He was going to take revenge, and if he had reported Vernell, then he wouldn't have been able to do that.
Investigators compare the bullet collected from the firefighter's vehicle to those retrieved from John's body.
So the ballistic report came back, and we had a match.
They placed the gun in Vernell's hand from the Philadelphia firefighter. This is the same gun that was used to kill Mr. Davis.
Now, at this time, with all the evidence collected and the witness statements, detectives have more than enough for an arrest warrant.
5 days after John's death, 32-year-old Vernell Jones is arrested on December 23rd, 2001.
So Vernell is charged with assault against the firefighter, and she's charged with the murder of Mr. Davis. And she's being interviewed by detectives, and they share all the evidence that points towards her.
But investigators don't think the case is closed.
They believe that John was shot once inside the vehicle and twice outside, so they still can't eliminate the possibility of having two shooters.
Police in White Marsh Township, Pennsylvania, have arrested Vernell Jones in the shooting death of John Davis, as well as in the non-fatal shooting of a Philadelphia firefighter.
They kept us briefed on things that were going on, and we was just trying to support one another during this time, our time of loss. They said that they had found some bullet fragments, and they tested them, and they found out that it was from a prior shooting, and that's how they made the connection.
After she's arrested, investigators are hoping that she will talk, because though they know that she had something to do with it, they still are looking for a why.
She's being interviewed by detectives, and they share all the evidence that points towards her. They placed a gun in her hand from the Philadelphia firefighter. This is the same gun that was used to kill Mr. Davis. Placed with all this information, she still does not confess.
Vernell pleads not guilty, and she's held without bail.
She's facing life in prison. If she's convicted of these 2 charges, she will never be out of prison again for her lifetime. So she is sitting in jail with no realistic date to know when she'll be out, if she'll ever be free again.
Over 6 months pass. Investigators get word that Vernell has had a change of heart. She wants to talk.
At this point, Vernell says, hey, look, I did not act alone. There was someone else who was acting with me, and it was my boyfriend, Kenneth Burnell.
She tells them she met Kenneth 5 years ago.
Kenneth Burnell had a lot going for him as a young man. He was heavily into music, and he was good. He was so good, in fact, that he was singing with the legendary, iconic Boyz II Men R&B group.
Kenneth Burnell and Vernell Jones met when he was a producer. He was actually scouting new talent. She was a member of a group, Surprise, and he became enamored with her. He just fell head over heels.
But Vernell tells them that Kenneth's adoration had a dark side.
In the course of this 5-year relationship, the abuse increased year after year. This was no longer a man that Vernell thought was gonna take care of her, that loved her and cherished her. This was a man that she had come to fear.
Kenneth was controlling. He forced her to have a tattoo that said she was his property.
When she got paid, she had to turn over the money right to him. He physically abused Vernell constantly.
Kenny also cheated on her. So, Vernell got him back.
She said she couldn't physically fight Kenny, but she could match him when it came to infidelity.
She had boyfriends, she had admirers, and she really made sure that he knew about it. Like, literally told him about it.
But Vernell says she was playing with fire.
Kenny could not stand the thought of Vernell being with any other man. So he decided that they were going to kill any man that posed himself as a threat.
This was a man that was insanely jealous. He was going to make a hit list. Not only did he want these men dead, but he wanted to see exactly how much did Vernell love him. Would she prove it to him? Would she kill every man on that hit list?
They take out a piece of paper and they write down the initials of all of these individuals that she's been intimate with throughout their relationship. She admits that she and Kenneth Burnell actually purchased this .38 revolver handgun to use in the murder of the firefighter. This was the beginning of their spree in carrying out this contract that the two of them entered into.
He actually dropped her off at the bar where she met the firefighter and proceeded to pick her up at the park after she shot him.
But the attack didn't go as planned, and the firefighter survived.
Kenny was mad because she didn't finish the job, so they ended up putting an X next to his name and vowed to finish the job.
Vernell said they moved to the next name on the list, John Davis.
And the sad thing about it is that she didn't even have an affair with John, but Kenny was jealous, and that was enough for Kenny to want him dead.
The relationship was already messy. Vernell was never comfortable with the fact that Kenny had so many admirers and he was so popular and he was doing the whole producer / way too popular with the girls thing. So she got him back. She went and got her own friend. She got several of her friends. She made other guy friends. He wanted to get back at her and he got payback on her. Like, okay, you want to have these little boyfriends? I'm going to get rid of these little boyfriends and I'm going to make you be part of getting rid of them. That shows an effort to want to manipulate her, make her see that he's in charge. There is an obvious power struggle that he wants to just eliminate altogether.
Accused murderer Vernell Jones tells investigators that she and her boyfriend, Kenneth Burnell, created a hit list composed of men Kenneth wanted to see dead.
Vernell says that Kenny wanted these men dead because he was jealous, and this was his way of getting payback.
After their first attempt left a Philadelphia firefighter injured but still alive, they set their sights on John Davis, Vernell's former boss.
Vernell was clear that she said there was not a sexual relationship between her and John. It was like a work wife, work husband situation, and that Kenneth took this to the next level and he assumed that there was something more there than it was. Kenneth took this leap that there was a relationship between John and Vernell, so he focused on murdering John based off of that information.
Vernell arranged a meetup with John Davis. On December 17th, around 9:30 p.m., Kenneth drove Vernell to the warehouse and under the cover of darkness, hid in the back seat of John's van.
He wasn't there for the first one, and in this case, no. He was like, I'm gonna be there so that we can get this done right.
Vernell met John as he ended his shift and walked him to the van. They both got in to chat for a bit. Kenny then made his move.
Kenny was inside of that van, sitting in the back seat behind John Davis, and he shot him in the head.
With John slumped over in his seat, Kenneth collected the casing and cleaned up.
The van was wiped clean of all fingerprints on the inside and the outside.
But then Kenneth had second thoughts.
If he was gonna go down, Vernell was gonna go down with him. There was no turning back. Once she pulled that trigger, she was in just as much trouble as Kenny was.
The autopsy corroborates Vernell's account.
Mr. Davis was shot from behind, so that means that somebody else had to be in the vehicle behind him to be able to shoot him from that angle. And then the other 2 rounds appeared to have been fired from outside the vehicle.
They leave the scene, they go back to Kenny's house. Kenny then leaves to get rid of the gun, and when he comes back, they had celebratory sex to commemorate what they had just done.
During the sexual intercourse, Kenny leaned down into Vernell's ear and whispered, 1 down and 4 to go.
So what became clear to investigators at this point is that Kenneth put this plan in place. So we hold her responsible for her part of the crime, but we recognize who the true mastermind in this was and who the catalyst of this murder was.
Vernell says that after the arrest, she stayed loyal to Kenny for a while.
This was a man that said he would support Vernell when she went to prison.
And as time passes on, Kenneth doesn't stay in touch with Vernell anymore.
She's basically sitting there She's becoming more and more worried about the fact that she's not hearing from Kenneth Burno because he sort of distances himself because he wants to stay away from this situation.
He starts to float away. And then Vernell gets information that Kenneth has moved on. He's got other girlfriends, he's got other interests, and he's not reaching out to her and not contacting her anymore. This enrages Vernell.
At that point, Vernell says she was ready to tell the truth.
Vernell says, look, hey, I'll plead guilty. I'll even testify against Kenny because this whole thing started when he said he wanted to get revenge on my past lovers, but now she's the one that got revenge. So now Kenny, he gets ready to go to work. Regular day for him. He steps outside, but police are waiting for him. They take him into custody.
On December 16th, 2002, 33-year-old Kenneth Burno is charged with the first-degree murder of John Davis and conspiracy to commit murder for the firefighter.
Kenneth does not offer any information. He does not cooperate. And detectives didn't have any more physical evidence. They didn't find this hit list.
The prosecution team knows that they have their work cut out for them.
Vernell's saying that, hey, I got hurt and I've been abused by this man, and they also are able to present other women who have also been abused by his hand as well. Though neither a hit list or a gun was ever found, witnesses said he did have a .38 gun when they saw him.
Kenny's defense is ready to counter their claims, especially when it comes to Vernell's testimony.
So the defense argued in this case that Vernell Jones acted alone, that this was her sick way of proving to him that she was so in love with him that she would get rid of these individuals who he felt jealous of in order to prove her love to him, that she came up with this list on her own, that she is the one who was the mastermind behind this.
They allege that when she was caught, she became determined to take Kenny down with her.
She felt that she had been left out there to hang. That was her way of making sure that he got what he deserved for abandoning her.
Kenny Burno doesn't take the stand. After 5 days of testimony, the case goes to the jury.
Kenneth Burno was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, one for killing John Davis, the other for conspiracy to kill the firefighter.
In this situation, it was very clear that they thought Vernell was credible. They believed what she said because they came back with that verdict within hours.
One has to wonder, was this payback from Vernell on to Kenny because he decided he was going to move on with his life, another girlfriend, and just basically forget all about her? Or was this payback from Kenny onto her? Because every time they were together, there was another man involved. And was he finally to the point of madness to where he told her, you have to kill those men?
Vernell follows through on her promise to prosecutors.
Vernell is going to plead guilty. So she goes in front of the judge. She pleads guilty to the 2 crimes, and she's sentenced. So the judge issues a sentence of 17 to 35 years against Vernell.
Vernell has served her time, and she has been released from prison.
Do I really think justice was served? Her penalty wasn't, I don't believe it was enough. But she got what she got, and, we got to move on from there.
As a prosecutor, you're happy that you got a conviction, that somebody's held responsible for this crime. But what you don't forget is now that there's children that have lost their father forever.
The saddest part about this case is the fact that this man's life was cut short. It was Christmas. He lived for his children. And now those poor children no longer have a father. And what should have been a wonderful family celebration will now be plagued with his death and murder for years to come.
I've forgiven them, but when we make mistakes, we pay for mistakes.